I visited Florida recently for a family thing, and I cannot tell you enough how weirdly excited I was to go down. I used to live in the Panhandle, and that was just my life in general for 13 years. Ah, yes, what a nice vacation to have in a tourist-trapped town, sure to be filled with nostalgia, sure to be absolutely amazing the moment I leave these airplane doors. Listen, as much fun as it is probably to be able to visit Florida, which I realize not being a resident for the other 13 years of my life has been vastly more primed to accommodate my needs, it isn't a great place to live, and little me 100% realized that so early on. Oh my god. It's so interesting to see people go, "Oh, I'd love to live in Florida. You're so lucky." No you don't. Holy fuck, no you don't. But nobody believes me anyway, the actual person who lived in Florida, telling them their tropical dreams do not exist outside of a beach and a margarita. Sure, there's a cool atmosphere and pretty seashells and places I'm personally nostalgic for, but realistically, I'd never live there ever again, and I hate repeating myself every time someone asks, why do you hate Florida? It's a tropical paradise. Like, no, Sharon from Oklahoma, you wouldn't survive a day in the same blazing state as Florida man, who is still on the loose and is heading increasingly closer to your location. So I've decided upon myself to make a list of why Florida absolutely should not be your ideal place to live. Politics free, of course, because I'm not touching that today. At least not today. If you lived in Florida, by the way, also warn people of what to look for when living there in the comments. Engage with the video, because it helps me out. And also, I actually genuinely want to know what parts of Florida you're from. Also subscribe. First and most obvious thing, the heat. If you like warmer climates, that's all good and dandy, but I mean it is hot. 90% of the time. You are sweating, you're thirsty, you're completely destroyed. It is not even midday. It's not even 11 a.m. That's fuckery. And if that doesn't bother you, like, oh, the heat would be fine, try the humidity. Not only is it hot, it's unbreathable. It reached 99% humidity like 3 times while I was down there this past week. I was trying to find sunscreen at like a Winn-Dixie. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's like a grocery store. And they had absolutely nothing because people already bought out the sunscreen. And believe me, you need some good sunscreen before you even think about leaving your cool AC mandated abode. You will burn. You are that much closer to skin cancer. Imagine going to work in midsummer in the Florida sun. Some people do that. Great, you're getting vitamin D, but like what cost? And if that doesn't, deter you, Florida is one of the biggest tourist states in America, which is fine and all, but if you live in a tourist town like I did, or it might as well be a tourist state, because wherever you go, it's just tourist attraction after tourist attraction. You just get a lot of people who have just found out about Florida roads, which we will go over, and therefore cannot drive them worth shit. So you get reckless ones, or really slow ones, or the overly cautious but clueless ones, and it's a nightmare to navigate traffic. Plus, you get the other tourist nightmare scenarios like beach litter and thrown glass bottles everywhere, and that's just not great for anyone. It's one thing to be the tourist, and it's another to be the one dealing with tourists. Still not stopping you? Okay. I briefly mentioned the roads, and I just want to show you a few examples of what I mean. I rest my case. I'm prepared with another one, boys. Here we go. Listen, I've been talking about the heat and the people and everything, but I need you to realize Florida doesn't have consistent sunny days every day. The storms rage, the tropical depression do be hitting, and then there's hurricane season, which happens like right when summer begins. If you survive the initial hit, that's great, that's awesome. But then you also have to worry about the power and your water and your food supply. And the fact the warm weather doesn't go away at all just because the ocean decided to swirl around a little bit like in a toilet bowl, so you're just sweating in bed with 100% humidity. This is not a real life comparison or experience. Not at all. No, not at all. So if you watched my first video, you'll know that I really don't like roaches. Like, they are a huge phobia trigger for me. I can't deal with them. But for just this one video, I will overcome my disgust looking at them to bring you this segment of insects you can find in Florida, but you really don't want them around. Otherwise known as, fuck it, we're gonna look at bugs today. Alright, you ready? Here we palmetto bug. It's called a palmetto bug. Guess what this thing does? It mooches off of your food. It's solitary, and it just likes to come in when it's too hot, so you'll just randomly find it in your house, and it flies. It flies! I hate it. It was everywhere as a kid, and it didn't matter how clean the house was, it was still prime living for this fucker in Florida. If it were a liable person, I'd sue for constant harassment. I don't care if it's good for the environment. It continues to attribute to my fight or flight response. Love bugs. I actually don't hate these things as much, but they are everywhere in the spring. And their primary function? Sex. Constant sex and death even. You'll have so many bugs squashed upon your windshield because they were just flying around. and fucking. I didn't have a third bug or anything. This segment was mainly an excuse to talk about those two. Now, I've been absolutely shitting on Florida this whole video in terms of a place to live, and as I probably should, but the peninsula as a whole is still kind of nice as a visitor. Especially this past vacation, I've had nothing but a good time. Obviously, I'm not saying don't live where you want, it's just that, in my experience, Florida has never been great for what I need in an environment. Hell, I haven't even talked about how everything has gotten way more expensive and how the housing market situation is terrible, or the political climate. But that's for some other video by some other Floridian. After moving, I found myself more at peace with other seasons and appreciating snow and the transition from weather event to weather event. But Florida could also work for you, as a person who has lived in the weather situation that I love. If that's the case, don't let this video stop you. Consider yourself warned, but don't let it stop you. You're probably not gonna like the fact the ocean is full of piss, though.